Good afternoon, everyone. If y'all can hear me, can somebody say yes in the comments on the right-hand side? Okay, welcome everyone to this week's episode of Social Chatter. This is episode 3. Last week, I was joined by my buddy, Mr. Vincent Orlek. He had a little bit of a family emergency today, so I'm flying solo. So today I'm going to try to keep these, like I said last week, to under 30 minutes. Basically, we're going to talk about what's going on in social media marketing for the week. And I'm also going to try to share with you some either tips or some tools that I think you should check out that I think can be really helpful for your business. So I wanted to start off with, I think, probably the most important update for the week. And this is actually changes that Facebook has made to the Facebook Pages option on mobile. Now, for those of you who've used Facebook Pages in general, you've used Facebook Pages on a desktop or a laptop, if you want to build out anything on your Facebook page, such as having, say, shopping or promoting your services or your products that you offer, you had to use a third-party app. For that, you had to use something such as, say, ShortStack, or we've got ShortStack, we've got Antavo, we've got TabSite, we've got I think we got Agorapulse there. We've got a ton of options, right? Now, all of these tools are very, they're time consuming. It's not just like, let me get a template, let me put something together and just throw it up. I mean, they do take, a little bit of time. So, if you wanted to ever add in that to your Facebook page, it took time, and it also took additional money because you had to buy these tools. Well, here's what basically has happened this week. So Facebook has started rolling out some new tabs to their Facebook Pages app. So basically what this means now is if I'm, for instance, a retail business, I can start to add, for instance, they're making the call to action buttons much more prominent. So for example, if you want to have somebody contact you or you want to send them to, say, download a mobile app or to your website or that sort of thing, you basically can do that with the call to action button. In addition to that, you are also able to, if you're a retail business, have a shopping component. So this means you want to put together a list of your products, you can put that on your Facebook page and it will start to show up when someone's on their mobile device. The other thing that's also being added right now is also services. So if you have specific services, you can also add that as well. Now, these are just, a couple of the options they're doing right now, but they're not, we're not limited by just these couple of things. I know they're going to start to actually build this out a lot more, to add in some additional features depending on what your page category is. So that's item number 1 for the week. Facebook page changes. So if you miss any of this, or you want to watch the video replay, or you want to read about it, you'll be able to get that. And I will, I'll send that out to everyone at the end. So item number 2 from the week. Hold on one second. We got a couple people asking some questions. So let's pause here real quick. Okay, so let's pop over to item number 2. Item number 2, we're talking about skippable ads in Snapchat. So, a lot of people have always asked, well, hey, what's the point of using like Snapchat or Vine or Instagram, like to create short videos? Well, the whole point is, the things we're starting to see, like, okay, obviously our attention span, we don't really have much of an attention span these days. However, this also means that when we're producing content, we need to produce things that are going to be like, useful for our audience. So like if we're over here producing, just churning out content and, it really is either not on point or, it's just not really good work. a lot of the audience is starting to tune out, and that's actually the case for Snapchat. So basically, this was an article happened, it was earlier this week, but basically Snapchat viewers, they're quick to skip video ads if the brands don't impress. So the bottom line is, if you're going to do any sort of an ad, and if your first ad isn't very good, most people are going to skip it, at least on Snapchat, that is. But, so basically the bottom line is, if you are, a business, don't be afraid to experiment, but make sure, maybe you want to study some other brands to see kind of what those brands are doing, and to see, hey, how does that fit into what I do? I think that's really important, that you pay attention to either your competitors, or you pay attention to maybe, similar brands. For example, if they're targeting a similar audience, maybe they got a different product, look at what they do and see if that actually fits within what you do. And, and kind of in a way, look at what they do and see if, there are things that you can pull from that. They're like, hey, you know what, this is actually very useful. Maybe give you some creative ideas to work with. So that's tip number 2. We've got skippable ads in Snapchat. We also have a couple of changes this week as well. More Instagram news. They did open up their ads platform. Basically, businesses of all size, they can now get involved with Instagram ads. So this happened just a couple of days ago. This is actually pretty big news. Basically, advertisers, you don't have to be a huge brand these days now. So on Instagram, you can start to run ads, large and small businesses, which is really amazing. And they also have 30 new countries. So you've got Italy, you've got Spain, Mexico, India, South Korea, and they're also launching in a whole bunch of other markets later in the month. So if you are on Instagram and you're looking to get into, running some ads, consider that as well. So take into account, basically, let's talk about the Snapchat ad. If your ads fail to impress people who skip your ad. Now let's move over to Instagram. Instagram has opened up their platform. We know they've got a ton of users. They're growing rapidly. If you're going to create ads for Instagram, same concept applies. Look at what your competitors are doing. Look at other brands that you follow. Maybe you're a small business and you're like, hey, how do I get involved in this? Look at some of the larger brands, see what they're doing, and say, okay, how can I take that and deconstruct that into something that I can actually use for my business? Maybe you don't have like a huge budget. No, 1 second. Got a couple of new people here. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's welcome a couple of these new people here. By the way, if you like some of the topics we're talking about here, feel free to click on the Tell a Little Bird option over on the left and invite your friends. This way we can all join in on a blab. By the way, when I do get to the end of today's topics, I am gonna, if you want to join this seat in a couple of minutes, you can join me here on Blab, and we can talk about some of these topics a little more in depth if you would like. Okay, so let's see. We've talked about, let's do a quick recap. Facebook page changes. We've talked about skippable ads in Snapchat. We've also talked about Instagram. They launch Instagram ads for large and small businesses. Okay, so I would say those are probably 3 of the main things happening in social media this week. But I also want to now dig into a couple of other things that I think are important. Let's see. Let's talk about. Here's a couple. You know what? I forgot actually what probably some of the biggest news of the week is. Let's quickly talk about Apple. So how many of you are Apple fans, or you've got some Apple product, whether it's an Apple Watch, or maybe you've got you might have an Apple Watch, maybe you've got an Apple TV. You got an iPhone, you got a MacBook. Anybody in the comments here? Okay, so Um, okay, so let's talk about Apple this week. Okay, so Apple, they launched a new product. They launched a number of new products. They launched the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6s Plus. Obviously, some of the main features that they've added, usually it's an upgraded processor, more RAM. They improve the camera. They make the Touch ID a lot better, right? So you're probably wondering, well, hey, this is a social media, like a chat about social media marketing. Well, how does this actually impact things? So this is actually where it gets really cool. Okay, so one thing that happened this week, it's 3D Force Touch. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to actually look at the announcement, basically what this is it's a way to give you additional menu options. So for example, here's a great example. If I am going to take a photo, the typical process is this. I open my smartphone, I unlock it, I go to the camera icon. Let's say I want to take a video for Instagram or something like that. Or maybe I want to take a selfie, actually. Let's do that instead. I want to take a selfie. I then have to tap the camera icon, flip the camera around, decide if I want a square or a landscape photo. And finally, then at that point, I can go take my photo. Well, the new feature, 3D Force Touch, basically it's this. I can do all of those steps in one tap, basically. So what I would have to do is, instead of tapping on the icon and going through all those steps, I can gently press down on the icon. In this case, it could be the camera icon. And there could be a selfie mode that is basically it's hidden in the button. So when you press down on you press down on the item, it will pop up this additional menu and it will automatically launch, say, the selfie mode and have everything ready to go for you. So that's one amazing way that this can really be useful. The second thing, though, that they have, which, let's apply this to social media marketing. So Instagram, same thing. You want to take a photo for Instagram. You have to, in this case, find the Instagram app if it's in a folder. Once you have it open, then you have to, tap through a bunch of things and you finally get to the camera. Well, now you'll have the same options. They're actually doing some really great things with Instagram. You'll be able to press and hold on the Instagram icon. Obviously, this is on the new iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. When you do that, it's going to pop up an Instagram menu option, and you're going to be able to do some things there. Like, for example, you're going to be able to quickly, I think you could post some stuff. You can get right to your camera. You can take advantage of some of those landscape and portrait options that they have launched. The options we talked about a couple weeks ago on Social Chatter. So that is, news number one from Apple for this week. It's the 3D Force Touch. So let's keep talking about Apple here for a couple minutes. Another item that is probably really important, I think, for a lot of people is, we're on Blab, but there's also Periscope and Meerkat, and obviously Google Hangouts and things like that. So Periscope is rumored to be creating an app for the Apple TV. Well, for those of you who have a current Apple TV, or the previous generation, you're probably wondering, well, I can't run any apps on there, right? See, that's one of the great things. This week, Apple announced a new Apple TV, and they have the ability now, basically, to have their own app store. It's called tvOS, basically. So they have their own app store. And the amazing thing about it is now you're going to be able to run apps from your Apple TV. Obviously, you have to have the new versions. But the benefit here is that if I want to do a Periscope, right now I'm currently on a laptop, but I have a smartphone. Well, let's say, say I don't have my laptop with me, or my phone is charging or something to that effect, and I want to do something from my TV. Well, now I'll be able to, potentially run something from Periscope. In this case, I can use that social media channel to broadcast something. Essentially, I can broadcast it from my living room couch, actually, which is kind of cool. So that's what's happening. And also, in addition to that news from Periscope, Periscope also has added landscape shooting to their mobile app as well. To get that, all you've got to do is a simple update. Simply go to your app store and update to the latest version of the Periscope app. I've actually am really amazed, by the way, at how fast things are really changing. It's like each one of these live streaming apps is pushing one another to actually get better and to improve their apps. So, so those are a couple of things that are going on this week in social media marketing. Let me see if there's what else we had here. Yes, I'm going to actually jump back to one other item. This is Facebook mentions. Granted, yes, you do have to have a verified account with Facebook mentions. This was the one where you could do like Facebook Live mentions. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's a way for you, if you have a verified account, to do a form of live streaming. So that is a new feature that, well, basically they made a couple of changes to it. So the bottom line is with Facebook mentions, Facebook profile. So if I'm a verified Facebook profile or Facebook page, I can run Facebook mentions now. But what's even better about it, this is actually pretty neat, I think, is that I can go into my account and adjust mentions so that only followers see certain items in my news feed. So, this is pretty awesome because a lot of times, most people that have a verified account, they're a celebrity, they're, some sort of like, public figure, and, they have a profile in most cases because they want to connect with like friends and family. But, a lot of times there really wasn't a way to kind of control all of that. So now with mentions, they can, go in and quickly filter that stuff out, which I think is really awesome. As I mentioned earlier, also, obviously, Facebook page changes, that in the new mobile app stuff. They've also added, looking to change up the cover photo, or not cover photo, they're looking to change up the whole top layout of your Facebook page. That's basically what's going on with Facebook this week. So let me get to, so here's the thing. I'm basically, those are about 7 items this week that have changed in social media marketing. As I mentioned, I've mentioned this on previous episodes. Every week I try to share with you, some tips. I try to share with you some tools on things that you can use to help grow your business. So I wanted to start off with, I want to start off with the first item. This is the first tool for the week, and is called create some content ideas with a click. So for example, if you're looking to write a blog post on something specific, maybe you want to try this and see what kind of results you get to, see if it helps, give you some ideas. I'm not saying, it's going to give you stuff that like, oh, hey, like it's definitely like worth using, but, poke around in there, spend a little time in there. That website link is contentforest.com/ideator. So I'm going to put that here in the chat window for everyone that is watching. Tool number 1. Okay, so there's tool number 1 for everybody. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to second tool. Second tool, I mentioned this earlier. It was Instagram. It was an update for Apple products for Instagram, basically, and it's any other app as well. Apple has rolled out features called Peek and Pop. And, as I mentioned, like in the context of Instagram, the way that this works is you do need to be running iOS 9, which will be available, I think it's next week. And the way that this Peek and Pop feature works basically is you'll be able to press down on, say, the Instagram app, and you can, in a way, you'll be able to peek at certain things. So like, for example, so I mentioned, you could press on an icon and pull up like certain menus. For example, if I want to like quickly launch the Instagram app, I could press and hold on the Instagram app and go right to the camera as opposed to going through all those steps. Okay. So this new feature, it's called Peek, and Peek is one part and Pop is the other. So this is where it's going to be, I think, really amazing if you take a lot of Instagram photos, for example. And I mentioned Instagram because they're one of the first companies that are really, jumping on the bandwagon and, really making their app work for, in this case, iOS 9. Basically, the way that Peek and Pop work. So Peek is this. So let's say somebody sends you something and you want to, you get a notification on your screen instead of tapping it and having it load the app and, and then finding out, well, hey, that wasn't really something I wanted, right? So the way that Peek will work is you'll be able to press down on it and it's going to quickly bring something up. In this case, if it's a notification on Instagram, you'll be able to quickly see what that item was. And then if you keep pressing, it will actually open the whole item. This is also great for like text messaging. For example, if somebody, let's say somebody sent you, a text message, you can quickly peek at it by pressing and holding. It'll pull up quickly give you like almost like a glance at what it is. And then if you continue holding, it'll actually open it. So that's the pop part. So it's like you peek to bring it up and then you keep pressing and pop brings it up. Okay. So that's second tool for the week. Basically, it's an iOS 9 update that's coming out, I think, next week, like I said. And the last item that I wanted to talk about this week, and for those of you who don't know me, I do a lot with social media marketing. I use a tool called, or I was using a tool called Follower Wonk. This was a tool that I was using. It was by Moz. And the way that it worked was I could go on Twitter. I could connect, if I go on Twitter, for example, and let's just say I'm like, hey, you know what? What's the composition of my Twitter account? For example, let's say I'm a major company and I am running, like say I've got a lot of employees that are following our brand channels. And we're like, hey, you know what? I want to find out what percentage of those people are, employees of my company, or I want to see roughly, what the composition is. Like, is there a certain hashtag or a certain keyword that keeps popping up? So what you could do with Follower Wonk was you could log in, you could connect your Twitter account, and it would give you a quick synopsis of your profile. Basically, it would say, okay, here are the people that are following you. Here are the people that you're following. Here's the rough idea of where those people work at. It would give you some additional ideas on like certain keywords that are being used. The whole gender composition, all that sort of stuff. So that was a tool called Follower Wonk. Well, it was a limited tool. It was, what's the word? Let's see. It was great because when I put my information in, it would spit back like a recommendation on times when people would, be like when my followers, for instance, would be on Twitter. So this way I could then go into Twitter and like adjust my scheduling when I'm going to post things, So that was the tool. It's been around for a little while. So this week, though, this is actually, I think, pretty cool because this company I really like a lot. Buffer is experimenting with a very similar tool. You can get to that. I'll put that in the chat window for everybody here. But basically, it's a new option that they're giving you, basically, where you can go and let me pull up the link for everybody. Okay, so basically, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to create an optimal schedule. So I put tool number 2 here is Peek and Pop for Instagram. Okay. By the way, everything that I mentioned here will be available later on. So the third item is basically it's buffer optimal scheduling. Okay. So the way that this third tool works, and this is probably my absolute favorite, is that I could go to Buffer, and for those of you who haven't used Buffer before, you could basically go set up a schedule on when you want to tweet something. You could say, hey, you know what? I want to schedule something to go out, now every 4 hours, every 8 hours, and then hey, I want to do it again tomorrow. So you can quickly create schedules. Well, that's really handy, but it doesn't actually give you, an idea of when your followers are online. Now, this is where this Buffer optimal scheduling tool is going to be really handy. So the way that this works is I can go here. I'm going to actually do it with everybody here. So I can launch this experimental tool. I log into my Buffer account. I select the account. In this case, I'm going to select, let's just say, I've done it for Twitter, but let's try Facebook as well, for instance. But basically, you can connect your accounts to Buffer. It's actually pretty awesome. Okay. So basically, you can connect your accounts to Buffer. So you can connect Google+, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, what have you. And you can tell it how many times do you want to post. So in this case, I'm going to say, you know what? I want to post 5 times. And I'm going to hit submit. And what's going to happen is it's going to go out. It's going to pull back that information. It's going to give you a graph. And I said, hey, I want to, post 5 times. What it's going to do now is it's going to give me 5 recommended times based on when I'm most likely to get maximum engagement on my channel. So in my case, I did that for my Twitter account and said, hey, you know what? You should post at like 6 in the morning. You could post around lunchtime. You could post around 1:30, around 4 o'clock, and around 8 o'clock in the evening. And it basically gives you a really nice graph. What's really awesome, though, is by using this tool, if I am a Buffer user, I can go in and create a schedule in Buffer specific to the information that's here. So for instance, I could go run this for, say, Twitter. So I can pull up Twitter and I can, find the optimal times to post, and I can quickly create a schedule in Buffer with one click of a button. Item number 2, which is really awesome. I can go onto Facebook. It'll actually look into my Facebook account when I've got that connected, and it gives me recommended times when I should post to Facebook to have maximum engagement. You can also do that with Google+, LinkedIn, etc. So, I'm actually really excited about this tool. I think the other key benefit to using this tool is that it's not just about giving me times. Like, I don't have to be a Buffer user. I could say, okay, let me find what it thinks are the best times, and let me go into, if you use another scheduling program, you could go take those times and put it in the other scheduling program. I mean, personally, I'd stick with Buffer because it's, super convenient. I pull up the list, I say replace schedule, and I have a whole new schedule. So this is something that I would highly recommend you check out. It's not something that, like I said, you don't have to be a Buffer user either to really take it. I mean, you get signed up for their free account, but you don't have to have their paid account to be able to use this. So, for those of you who are watching right now, I'd actually love to hear from you. If you have any specific tools you're using, for instance, for scheduling your Twitter, scheduling like your tweets, for example. And if you do have some tools, I'd love to hear what are your pain points of those tools? Like, do you find that they're working better than others, or not? So that actually is, with that note, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Social Chatter. As I mentioned, we talked a lot today about Facebook. I mean, it seems like we're talking about Facebook and Instagram every week, but we did throw in a little Snapchat this week, and also a little bit of Apple news. Again, I thought that was very relevant, along with, a couple tools for helping you generate ideas for blogging. That was, what was it? It was contentforest.com/ideator. And also, as I mentioned, the Buffer optimal scheduling tool. I will make an effort to get this recorded, or obviously it is recorded, but I'll make an effort to get this posted. I'll try to post it up to my YouTube channel. You also have, a replay you can watch here on Blab. And also I'll try to put together a blog post for those of you who are, who prefer to read this, or maybe you want to clip this to Evernote or something for later. One last thing I did want to let everybody know about is, if you would like me to notify you each week when we're doing a new episode of Social Chatter, check out, you could basically do this. You can send me a text. So send a text to 33444. Now in that text, all you have to do is type in capital weekly, capital social. I'm going to put that here in the chat. So basically you text weekly social to 33444. What this is going to do is you're going to get added to my list for Blab notifications. So this way, when I'm running a new episode each week, I'm going to send you a notification, and you're going to be able to either A, quickly join it, or B, you'll know exactly, maybe there'll be a replay as well listed from the previous week in case you missed it. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, I wanted to wish everybody, a great weekend, a relaxing weekend, and if you have any social media marketing questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at CKROKS. That's my personal Twitter handle. You can also reach out to me at my brand handle, which is Social Chefs, where we're basically providing you with winning social media marketing recipes to help you win in business.